Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen, and all in between, and welcome back to part 3 of the Bachelor campaign for Pathologic Classic HD. Now, when last we left off, we were charged by Georgi Kane, the head of the Kane family, to investigate his brother's murder and to try and find the guilty party if we can. So very quickly before we head off to our next person of interest, we're going to pop into the graveyard and collect some food left here as an offering, some bread and two. Well, that took a bit longer than it should have. But now, anyway, we search these two trash cans and we head off to meet Alexander Saburov. Good to get a bottle of water. 2 bottles of water. But let's see what the townsfolk have to say. And nothing, apparently, actually. Anything I can help you for? I'd be much obliged if you could help me learn how to get around your town. There's more than one town here. The first one is called the Bull Project. The second, the offspring of the project, is the districts. I mean the residential part itself. Not so long ago the town also dropped anchor across the river, but I wouldn't go so far as to call that part district too. It's just the polyhedron. And what's inside of that polyhedron? Nothing really. Children like to play there, I guess. And they say it's perfectly empty, bare as the palm of your hand. What could be there inside such a monstrosity? I find it unbelievable that it's still standing at all. I'd never let my children enter that damn thing, ever. So you've never actually been there yourself. The kids don't like it when we grown-ups try to visit them in the polyhedron. Not like there's anything special in there. Why would anyone ever want to climb that thing? Alright. By the way, why do you call your town the districts? Oh well, it just sort of came to be that way. The Gullet and the Guzzle, the Gorkins tributaries, divide the town into 3 parts. Each of them consists of many separate courtyards, so maybe that's the reason. I see. Well, I was hoping none of it comes up today. So one thing you'll very quickly learn about Pathologic is that it is a walking simulator. But that's also part of the charm of this game. It is improved in Pathologic 2 when you've got a stamina bar and fast travel through boats, but in Pathologic Classic HD, it's, well, you just have to walk and that's it. But it fits into the game's atmosphere quite well. You know, you can use the time in between destinations to think about the plot, what's going on, who's lying to you, who's telling the truth. It also makes it a lot more intense later on when you really kind of need to be getting around to doing things quickly, and yet you've got to walk across the whole town to get to places. So it does sort of give you the, it does add the extra pressure onto you. Let me just make sure I'm going the right way. I am, yeah. Yeah, later in the game, the days tend to get shorter and you've got much more to do, and running around town at a walking pace like the Bachelor is doing now is, yeah, can be difficult. One of the many features of Pathologic that make it such a demanding and challenging but also thrilling game. Also, rummaging through trash bins. This might not seem important. It might seem like just picking up a random apple in Skyrim, for example, but every single piece of trash is worth something to somebody in this town. Kids will trade bullets for a couple of marbles, for example, and we need to be making those kind of trades. You also see many of these weird and wonderful structures throughout the town. We already seen the polyhedron at the Kane's house, but this is a strange town, no doubt. There are things here that exist that shouldn't, and more of that will become apparent as the game continues on. And there we have the Rod, home of Alexander and Katerina Saburova, who will hopefully help us rather than hinder us on our mission to uncover Simon's killer. but that really awaits to be seen. Each major family has its own part to play in this story, in the town structure. The Kanes are the optimists, the architects, the planners, and the Sabelovs, well, they're the authority, the legal aspect of the town. None other than than Alexander Sabelov himself.
Neither the sun nor death can be looked at without winking. Who said that?
So, I finally get to see you. Yes, you really do look like a messenger of sorrowful times. In any case, welcome to the Rod. Our meeting is quite significant in a way. Facing the changes with open eyes and taking their first blow is my duty. Do you think we're on the verge of an especially unhappy era? No grim events have clouded our existence since last summer. The country has cured its war wounds. Commercial communications have been repaired. Astrologists expect nothing ill. Do you hold astrologers' opinions in high regard? The movement of the planets has an obvious effect on our life. However, I do not think it's humanly possible to gain any profit from that.
The outcome was to be expected, I'm afraid. Simon was doomed.
So, you've come to meet with Simon, haven't you? What can I do for you now? Why are you giving me that look, as if Simon's death was my fault?
What has this town turned into? Truly a country of contradictions.
Do you have any weapons? No. I've just finished distributing the remaining weapons to patrolmen sent to the Bone Stake Lot. Rumor has it something's brewing there. The rabble are trying to catch some man-eater all agog, but even if I had weapons, I wouldn't give any to you. Why in the world should I? Something's brewing. What exactly? They're going to lynch a woman, I think. There's this superstition circulating among the people, a myth of a man-eater from the steppe. A creature called a Shabnak Adir. Supposedly it can only take female form, even though it's made up of all sorts of filth. Where are my patrolmen, though? Where is his lot? The Bone Stake lot is located somewhere among the back alleys right in the middle of Earth, between the Tanners and the Skinners districts. It used to be a huge dump, and before that the mob had used it for their barbaric gatherings. Some time ago they reclaimed the dump and revived the tradition. What kind of dump? The dump's been there since the foundation of the termitory. Then the construction of the Skinners and the hindquarters began, and the waste was still dumped in the lot. People grumbled at first, but then they seemed to calm down. And now, recently, they just quietly cleaned it out. Where did the waste go? No idea. It's like they ate it up. They couldn't have buried it, it's against their rules. They're protecting the earth, those savages. But where did my patrolman disappear to? Should I maybe investigate it? You want to see the man-eater too? Don't. Those are just dirty rumors, most likely. Or you'll find some poor victim of a frenzied mob there. That's where the patrolmen are for. As for a better description, you can look for a huge upright boulder standing there since the beginning of time. A Neolithic artifact. I see. Many thanks to you. That's all he's got to say for now. Let's quickly pop around the corner and visit his wife. Although they live in one house, they live in separate quarters. Marital problems, perhaps?
Matchmakers are coming, trying to woo me.
The only proper way for a duel to end is with the death of one of the fighters. That's what battles are supposed to be. Any conflict that has two sides inevitably turns into a battle of good and evil. A brutal philosophy. I'm not speaking metaphorically or metaphysically. I'm talking about a very particular battle. You are one of the combatants, Bachelor Dankovsky. Do you favor good or evil? I favor winning. Spoken like a true warrior. I truly wish you victory, Bachelor, even though I doubt there can be a victory at all in this battle. You are very kind.
It's true. The girl has proven that she's a saint, not a killer.
You're a brave man, Bachelor Dankovsky. Aye. This fight is very unlikely to end in your favor. Does the clay and bone man-eater leave traces of the kind you've witnessed? It's only a spell, an illusion. They just prefer to see it this way. It makes it easier for them. You know the details of my fight in advance. If you don't point at the killer by nightfall, then the killer will strike you down as well. You simply won't be able to recognize them. You won't notice them crawling up to you. Somehow you'll be very surprised upon seeing their face, and that will leave you paralyzed. How do you know all this? I'm clairvoyant. What's the nature of your visions? This should not be your primary concern at the moment. You should concern yourself with the number of minutes you have left, and that number is dwindling. I don't throw predictions around. Others will tell you how often they have come true. Do heed my words. Time will tell.
My eyes look just like buttons, don't they?
Oh, the torment. I can't bear it. Do you also think Simon Kane's death was unnatural? No, not at all. How could someone who had absorbed all our blood not die? A single man cannot handle that. There are limits to a living being's vitality, and there are limits to the world's patience. Wait, what do you mean by the limits to a being's vitality? I think I've heard that somewhere before. Simon transformed our town into a single whole, a living being. He was the heart, and we were the blood running through the town's veins. We radiated his light, and that's why we used to shine so brightly. The bound are actually bound to Simon. But who could have killed him? Who is to blame for his death? Even if someone did have something to do with it, is that person worth blaming? Most likely they didn't even realize they were killing someone. Yes, that is how it was. Now I see very clearly. Oh yeah, you're clairvoyant.
Shh.
It's always good just checking in with everybody to make sure that we've exhausted dialogue options. So Katerina says that if we don't figure out Simon's killer by the end of the night, we will be killed by the killer. It is someone hunting us. Or something. So we're gonna go to that bone steak lot that Alexander mentioned, where that poor woman is being lynched. We can get a weapon there. And a weapon will come in very handy in this town. But Catalina claims to be a clairvoyant. We've run into these mistresses with Maria Kane as well, having the power of clairvoyancy. We'll learn a little bit more about that, I think, as we go along. But for now we're going to head to the Trammel to visit Yulia Lurachevich, the mathematician, and a recent addition to the town. Someone who, like us, is more focused in the ground and in reality than the myths and legends that surround this place. Maybe someone who can provide some answers for us. Or at least translate everything we've learned so far into something we can understand.
I'm afraid it's natural. Simon was doomed.
I seem to have lost any capacity for observation. My mind is out of tune. Things no longer add up. Before, I had no trouble forming a trustworthy tessellation out of the most imperceptible contingencies. Now I simply cannot get my head around it. Could it be that I'm dying? The steppe air is way too thick. I think that's what's caused it. Oh no, Herba Tiverne is in blossom, I grant you, but then it blooms every year. Every year the steppe is filled with its superfine vapours. The issue I'm having, however, has nothing to do with fatigue or perplexity. It is just that I've lost my ability to make distinctive events coincide. Everyone has that ability. You don't seem to understand what I'm saying. Let me elucidate. A single word someone utters may precipitate the birth of their own murderer. This line of philosophizing is barely an intellectual novelty, and is particularly relevant in our neck of the woods. I sometimes feel like I could touch the notions of cause and effect with the tips of my fingers. But now I'm being tedious, I reckon. Not at all. She's a little bit, but we'll be kind.
Yes?
So, you have travelled all the way here only to find that both people you wanted to see were brutally murdered. Is this how the story goes? I do hope that your visit is not in any way related to these most unfortunate circumstances. I've yet to meet anyone who can help me in the slightest way to find the killer. Do you have any relevant experience? Do you know how a murderer may be found? Not really, but I hunt the killer of all killers in my laboratory. Incidentally, it is more than possible that the killer is hiding in the house of Anna Angel, a thespian of sorts. Now, here is another woman worthy of attention. In fact, I heard some ghastly man covered in blood was seen entering her house today. What kind of woman is this Anna Angel? I struggle to imagine a person whose name is less reflective of her inner self. So there's a bloodied man hiding in her house. Why would that be? She lives in a mansion that once belonged to a family of exiles, whose political views led them to a far-out town like ours. Because of some ill-conceived sense of camaraderie, they were happy to give shelter to a runaway actress, as soon as she told them she was persecuted by the powers that be. A few years later they died, suspiciously if you ask me, leaving Willow Mellow, their daughter, in the care of their companion. Willow died soon thereafter. Mysteriously. They all died of natural causes, allegedly, even though Willow was buried in a tightly closed coffin. The body was examined by Isidore Bulloch, however, and he is not a man who would cover up a crime. Anyway, you would do good to take a look at the house yourself. The mansion is known as the Willows. It stands by the gullet in earth. Anna, huh? Well, I'll get to know her. The Willows serve as a residence for a singer called Anna, her last name. Angel has a curious ring to it. Yulia believes that the suspected murderer may be hiding here. Now it's quite close to Isidore's house, so we can go there first and loop around to there.
Yes?
Do you like Eva Jan? Very much. I wouldn't be much of a stretch to say I absolutely admire her. Weird. I expected you to have a different opinion of her. She dons a mask of absent-minded promiscuity, but this pose has nothing to do with what she really is. I'd be happy to be friends with her, but she does not understand me, and rightfully so, considering her eminence. I can't believe my ears. Sooner or later a fervent believer may emerge from within her, dissolving her completely in the object of her adoration. After which she will probably kill herself, but I'd rather talk no more of that. Alright.
This girl is a changeling. She's not the murderer.
I doubt I can do it on my own. Tell me plain and simple, what do you make of all of this? So I've heard. A wisecrack I know says that while you are trying to complete the portrait of the killer is busy painting yours. Hilarious, is it not? The hunter becomes the hunted. However, to put it bluntly, you have become the keynote of this particular plot. The intrigue is so rich it will keep you busy for a week, if not longer than that. That coincides with what Maria told us, that while we're searching for the killer is searching for us. What would you do if you were me? If you want my advice, I wouldn't trust what our feudals tell you. The perpetual triangle of influence means that every party concerned will do their best to use your authority to their own benefit. I'm not that conceited. Perhaps people of lower standing would not try to use me. It is more likely that people of such standing will be too scared to cooperate. Given your position, you may want to try your luck with the shadow cabins of local nobility, the women of influence. They know much more than the simple townsfolk. Yet they care much less than the families in power. Who are these lady aristocrats? Lady aristocrats. Such way of saying it will be of relevance strictly within the specific context of values and perceptions, characteristic of a backwoods hole like ours. The catch is that the aristocracy is not defined by birthright here, rather the status is granted by the degree of enigmatic fascination that a woman is possessed of. Questionable background, audacity of demeanour, this whole assortment. Do tell me who these affluent ladies are. Lara, Eva, yours truly, and last but least Maria. I wouldn't listen to Catalina if I were you. Her morphine habit has turned her into a walking corpse. The others, however, are liable to deceive. You don't like being lied to, do you? I can't stand it. It is better to die than to lie. I see. Perhaps you like being played with, then? Even less so. In this case, Maria seems to be your best bet. She is too arrogant to lie, and too respectful to dare play with you. You should value the affection of someone this proud. But I digress. What is your intended course of action? Hmm. I need time to think. If you please. I will ask more questions if something else crosses my mind, especially since you are one of the lady aristocrats. So you can side quest. Could it be that the killer is hiding in the willows, where the singer Anna Angel resides? After all, someone covered head to toe in fresh blood was recently offered shelter there. And we've got today's quest. Nothing else updated yet. But we did learn a lot from our visit to Yulia. We need to go check out Anna Angel's house as well as talk to Lara. Maria and Catalina we've already spoken to. But I think for now we'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please consider giving the channel a like and subscribing to join the Bachelor on his journey to try and defeat and overcome death. And I will see you all in the next episode. Take care and have a good day.